So when you're making candles with beeswax, and relatively unrefined beeswax, one thing you find is that you want a bigger wick. You should get a bigger wick for beeswax than for paraffin. And so this is a number 2 square braided wick. So then this all is part of just a kind of a standard thing. You can see that they've been used quite a bit. They're very waxy. And you can buy wax coloring. I mean, you can even use crayons, but that is paraffin again. So there are tints that you can put in to wax. Oh, that's two faces. A two-faced angel.
You don't want a two-faced angel. I've had a few.
Qué malito. Okay. Okay. So this wax has already been strained. All this can be messy, so I'm going to do it right over here. Contain the wax as much as possible. And you know what, I'll cut a little bit of wicking and we'll make something to hang it with. Normally we would cut it with a little bit of, like a pretty ribbon wouldn't hurt either. And we just put it in there a little ways. You want to try to get it to not show through the other side of the mold, you know. You don't mind if it shows on this side, but you don't want it to show through on the outside. And what will always happen is that the wax shrinks. Oops! Oh shit! So that one leaked. And that's why it's better to do it like in a place like this instead of over your nice table somewhere. So this one is holding fine. Yeah, I'll just leave it there, thank you, and I'll just try this one. Maybe I'll try it right here.
That one's also kind of leaky.
Yeah, so you know what, I'm going to just hold it for just a minute.
It smells delicious.
Be set. The main thing is that it should be liquid. It's best if it's close to solidifying. That stopped. Thank you. Of course, beeswax is made out of honey by the bees. And so it smells a lot like the honey that it was made from. There is... Bees make 11 pounds of honey into 1 pound of beeswax.
Oh.
Just kind of fill it up and it will sink some, and now I want to make sure that these don't show. This is something I had made up myself. I'm not a good welder, but I have a friend who is. And turned out later I broke one, and my dad tried to re-weld it, and I realized it takes a really good welder to do that. Each of these have 12 little bolts coming out of them. What this is these detach. This is like a star thing in the bottom, and then this matches it, but it can be moved up and down, and it can be set with a screw wherever you decide to set it. So if I want to make a 6-inch candle, I'll separate these by 7 inches. And then I came up with this scheme, this is all my own invention, so I can put 9 pairs on this, because I put 3 in the middle by skipping every other one in the middle, and then 6 pairs, or on the outside. So then I come over to here, and I go around, and this is all just my geometry scheme that I came up with. The rooms are all honeycomb shaped. This will be the first dip that I'll do. And then another thing to explain is that we want the first dip to really kind of soak in. When you first just plunge it in and out, you would just get a layer on the outside of the wick, so to speak. And if you leave it in there till the wick gets warm enough, then the wax soaks up into the wick. And so one of the reasons for that is that the wick needs the wax in it that can start melting the wax in the candle, and then start wicking that liquid wax up through it. So if you wax the wick above the candle, it makes it burn. It doesn't let it just burn the wick off. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and just dip this right down to those metal bars pretty much. Almost. I try to avoid actually touching the metal bars. And now the problem is letting it cool. And in the past we had something on the door last year and I didn't...
Fan.
Right. Because wax, the problem like with direct heat on a flame underneath wax is you could volatilize it and then actually catch a fire. I remember one time a guy was doing that. He was going to set up a thing like that overnight at the state fair. And I was pretty concerned. I was going to run a booth next to his. And it really kind of scared me that, I thought, well, because he was going to leave it overnight with nobody there. And I thought, so the other thing is that each time I dip it, the top of the candle is going to come up a little bit because there's going to be a layer at the top as well. So I'm going to come down approximately, say, half or three-quarter or a quarter, say 3/8 of an inch below where I actually want the candle to end. And I'm just doing a lot of this, through experiencing it by my eye. And again, you kind of go in nice and smooth, stop, come out nice and smooth, and then I can let the drips drip off. Like you don't want to feel, it should be like a little bit below body temperature. You don't want it to feel hot to your finger when you touch it, or to your cheek, say. Like I can feel definitely some heat before I even touch it there. And so the ideal temperature is about 80 degrees. It's below body temperature before you re-dip. If you're dipping in the winter in a cold room, then you wind up, the wax kind of like, it comes on in little like layers. It kind of freezes out a little ways and then lifts up and freezes out a little ways, and you get these ridges all up and down the candle. So usually if you're getting ridges up and down, up vertically, well, horizontally I guess, across the candle, that's a problem of too cold. The surface of the candle was too cold when you dipped it. And if you start getting bubbles underneath this, like you notice that there's like these pale spots and it's splotched, and there's like bubbles underneath this last surface, that's usually a sign it was too hot.
But to replicate that honeycomb look, but on an actual...
Yeah. I'm always the mystery.
I mean, I'd probably never do it because that'd be a ton of work. You'd have to actually...
Ready to dip, you can sort of see the difference in the color here. How this is really cool, and this is still pretty hot, and it's quite dark in right to the top, and 1, 2, and up. Okay, there we go. Perfect.